Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin yang, come along.
Welcome to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. Great number one Honda dealer in Bloomington. Jim Coyle with you as always. Dustin Schutte sitting in as well. Indiana Sports Beat. How you doing, Dustin?
I'm doing great. We've had a full slate, an awesome slate of Big Ten basketball this past week and more to come. So I'm doing great. How are you?
I could not be happier as well. The only bad thing about all of this great basketball is it's coming. It's a crescendo. It's we're getting closer to the end, which for Indiana fans may be a better thing this season. But as just a college basketball fan in general, it's a fun time of year, man. You start to reach the tournaments, and it just, it gets fun. But and all here in Indiana this year. Unfortunately, we don't even have to don't have to talk about that one. So they got the tournament here in the state of Indiana, so you got that. Yeah, that's cool. But and then a high school tournament coming up as well. The numbers are going down. That is something to celebrate. The numbers to get vaccinated, I noticed, is just dropping fast, which means it went from, like in Indiana, 60 to 55 to 50 in a day. It's like boom, boom, boom. It was like, wow. So that means they're getting the vaccinations. They have them. They're scheduled out now, but at least it's there. So there's lots to be happy about, man.
There's a lot to be happy about. And especially we've talked about it many times. That means that hopefully we start to see fans in stadiums again next year. I still don't know that we'll see 100% capacity, but if we can get to 50% or something around that number, that's going to make a huge difference. And this is especially in Bloomington, it's going to be a fun Indiana football team to watch. I know we're still in basketball season, but hey, that's something to look forward to, and it's awesome to see how quickly this stuff is manifesting, and it's to me it's a very positive sign for sports next year.
Yeah, the Big Ten just announced limited fan attendance for the Big Ten tourney. So, what does that mean? Not sure. In Texas, 100%, baby, it's open. That's why the NIT got moved to Dallas for the first time ever, because New York is not that. So that's that sole purpose. But see if we can find that, because that just came out. That's good for local fans, especially here in Indiana. But what that's actually going to mean, because you've got so many parents that take up a lot, parents, friends. How many tickets does each participant get? And as they should get first crack. But the NCAA will
Lucas Oil, right?
Yeah, the official statement. Well, this is from a few days ago, so that's not it. I guess just up to 25% capacity. That's what we've heard before, so that doesn't change anything. Now, are they talking about? Oh, they're talking about for the Big Ten tournament. The Big Ten tournament also allowing limited fan. Well, of course. I mean, they're going to do it differently than the NCAA. Why did we even need to wait for that announcement? That's stupid.
Well, they've done it differently than the NCAA. This whole thing going back to football season. So, who would have? Yeah, but if they're playing in Lucas Oil Stadium, I mean, you can have more fans in there because it's a bigger venue. So that might be, you might be able to see more than, and I know places like, Mackey Arena and Assembly Hall are still going to not go up to that 25% because they're smaller venues. But when you have that wide open space, you may not be able to get great seats, but hey, at least they're going to try to allow some fans in there. And I go back to a month ago when the Pacers started opening up tickets to fans. I don't remember if it was late January or early February, but I'm sure that was part of the experiment not just to get money for the Pacers, but I'm sure they wanted to test and see if they could safely do this for the NCAA tournament, because you got all these, like you said, the whole tournament's being played in Indiana, so they want to try to get as many fans as they can, and so 25%, that's a lot better than nothing.
And I promise you, they'd love to have seen every Indiana team in the state in there, Notre Dame, Indiana, Butler, alike. And truthfully, most of the time, most of those teams are in there. But sadly, that's not going to be the case. So there's no point in beating on a dead horse. Hey, before I forget, Alec Lasley did a great piece on Verdell Jones. Go to thehoosier.com and read that if you haven't. It's a great piece. We don't talk enough about people who do great things. That's a man doing great things, man. That's somebody that you love having out in the community. That's somebody you want in your community. So check that out. It's pretty cool. But Indiana, man, you got Purdue coming up. What are they going to do after that? Everybody's wanting to know. Who knows? I don't know. It's not even worth talking about at the moment. How's everybody doing on YouTube, you guys? If you're not watching there, you can. Just find Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Not a problem. Yes, it is Groundhog Day, Jennifer.
Yes. Same story, different show, right?
Well, that's all. Yeah, but and my fear is Scott Dolson. I feel bad for Scott Dolson. We're going to talk about this later. We will talk about this later. But he just had a bag dropped into his lap. And I don't mean a bag. I mean a pallet of bags. But it's courtesy of the guy who is responsible for him being an athletics director at a Big Ten university.
Yep. And it's going to be interesting to see what direction he goes, because there's almost, we know what the logical move should be, but there's almost no winning in this situation, because there's obviously no guarantees out there. So even if you do make a change at the end of this season and you pay the $10 million or whatever that number is, the 100% of his remaining contract, and you bring in somebody else and that doesn't work out. So it is a tough situation, especially for a brand new AD, but I don't know what you would point to and say that there's been success. So, and I know you've beat this drum multiple times and we've talked about it multiple times, so we can move on from it, but it's not, athletic directors get paid a lot of money to make these kind of decisions, but this is a tough one for a new AD.
Yeah, well, it makes you what it really makes you wonder, why Fred Glass left when he did.
Do you think that's a question? I think we know the answer to that. He probably didn't want to have to make another hire and have to deal with it again.
He didn't want to have to make another fire of a guy that he had given a contract to.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is the better way to phrase that. Yes. Yeah, you're right on that.
No, let me rephrase. Giving a horribly bad contract for the school to.
Yeah, and I don't understand. I don't understand how. I was just going to say, I don't understand how. Like, those things have to be approved by the board. I don't understand how that got approved. Again, we're not talking about, and just to throw a name out there, we're not talking about somebody with like a national championship like John Calipari coming in. You're not hiring somebody like that. You're hiring a guy from the A-10 who had, he was fine at Dayton, but it wasn't like they were a Final Four team or they were, like they were like Gonzaga is.
Yeah, that's you know what? I'm for me to say this is funny. We're going to reserve that conversation for later, because I think we're going to have plenty of time to have it. Not to cut you off, because that's usually me doing this, and I'm like, you know what? Because here of late, I'm like, you know what? Stop. I'm going to stop beating that dead horse. Even on the post game show, it's like, it's pointless. Don't do that. Just address what's going on now, because that's the here and the now. And that's what it is. So what are the players going to do? They need to step up. They need to step up on their own and just do everything better. And that's a fact. Watch them on the court. They may not be coached well, but you don't have to be coached to give 100% effort. Effort has nothing to do with coaching. So, and I'm not saying they're not trying. I'm just saying, I'm talking about on cuts, on passes, on every single little thing. Are you going as hard as you can? Are you getting to that spot as fast as you can? Are you doing it as well as you can? I think there's the problem is, talking to all these guys, former players, there's always this hierarchy of guys. It gets passed down, and that's been severed. I think that has been severed, and there's no culture whatsoever under Archie Miller. Zero. Well, there is one culture. It's just a bad one. See what happens. I told you, I'm the guy. I said get off that, and who's the one that starts banging that drum again?
Well, I mean, you just look at the stats from the other day against Michigan State, and you would have probably thought that Indiana would have won that game because of how poorly Michigan State played. And that's a Michigan State team, by the way, that is playing 6 games in 13 days. They've had to play Illinois, Ohio State. They have to play Michigan twice. So that should be that was a tired team. That was a tired team they played, and they still couldn't come away with the win. And you saw the wheels come off with, Trace Jackson Davis with the bleep you in the huddle to the teammates or the coach or whoever it was. That is like, it almost looks like after that game, like this season is over. Like they just want to. I know after the game, Rob Finney said he wants to get a win for some of those guys who haven't beaten Purdue. But I mean, that should be the goal for everybody in that locker room to beat Purdue. That should be your goal every season, every game. But to me, there doesn't appear to be much chemistry on the floor. And I think that's why that's why they couldn't beat Michigan State. There was just no chemistry there because that was a team that couldn't shoot. That I know that there was choppiness to that game because of the officiating, but I just didn't see any leadership. And you got to a certain point where it just looked like the towel was being thrown in. It's
the same old. Yeah. That's all. I mean, I'm not talking about to you. It's just I've never seen a team that is the same exact blah 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 every time that we talk about it. It's crazy. Bubble watch. Indiana's not even on the next 4 out, so they've moved on down the road. There is just no path. I don't think a victory over Purdue does enough for Indiana. At Purdue, they are not the first 4 out. They're not the next 4 out. They're on down the road. So you're not going to jump. I don't even know how far down they are on that. So, but at least 8 teams to get in. You'd have to jump. One of those being Duke. Duke is a first 4 out right now. Duke is looking at the NIT is looking at having Duke, Michigan State, Indiana. I don't know if Kentucky would play in it, but I don't know if these teams are going to play in that tournament is the one thing.
I don't know that they will either. This may be more of a mid-major tournament by the time it's all said and done. I mean, unless you have a younger team where you think that the experience is going to pay off. But some of these teams, they may just say, you know what, we're not going to mess with it. We're just going to call it the season. We're not going to compete for a national championship because some of these teams are very experienced, so they don't really. I don't know that it really benefits them. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, you would have said that beginning of the season, that we would have thought you're crazy. I mean, that's just an elite group of blue blood programs, and none of them have played well at all except for Michigan State towards the end of the year.
On Monday, Matthew Gutierrez, who covers Syracuse basketball for The Athletic, tweeted that the Orange would be somewhere around 17-5 overall in the field of 68 if reserves, blah, 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 had logged more minutes. Basically kind of making a stab at the coach there. And then on Tuesday, let's see. Okay, so I missed something, but Boeheim questioned this guy, his credibility, because of his height as a reporter.
Yep. And
Did you see that?
I did see that, and he's never played basketball before in his life, was a comment that Boeheim made. He's getting up there. He hasn't lost his snarkiness.
Now, but is there some truth to that? Because that's something that, let me just go ahead and answer that question. Is there, when comments like that are made about reporters who have never, it doesn't have to be D1. I never played D1 sports.
Right.
But I think I do agree that not having played sports and it's something that you are talking about and are opinionated about, if you have never, ever done it, there's no way that you can have a complete understanding of what it's like to be in a huddle on a sideline, to be coached, to be driven, to be pushed, to be whatever. If you have never experienced it, how can you understand what it's like? Because there's no way some of the experiences I could have created in my mind without experiencing most of them.
Right. I mean, I think it depends. I mean, to me, it depends. Like, if you're a reporter and if you're making an observation about, you have statistics and you have the eyeball test to back this kind of stuff up, to me, it doesn't make a difference. If you're just consistently, bashing the coach, and, I point the finger at myself because that's happened for me on a couple occasions, that's a little bit different. Like, I have no authority to tell any football or basketball coach what they're doing wrong, but I can see and say, I can watch the TV screen and say, hey, that's not working.
Let's save this for this is a good conversation. Let's save this for, because I'm way late. Went way over. We got Matt Taylor joining us next from the Colts. Let's get out of here real fast. Back right after this from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios.
Hey, we all want more, and no one gives you more for less than Andy Moore Honda of Wilmington. And right now,
way late.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I was making posts on Facebook.
No, that's not me. Normally I catch it and I'm there, but I was like, oh shit. That and these stupid glasses, I can't see through them. Yes, we'll talk about this because I've actually talked about that earlier. And when you see people talk about mainly statistics, they don't know what they're talking about.
Well, I think it depends on if, like, to me, so the analytics, like the S&P and the Ken Palm and that kind of, like, that stuff doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, it has its use, but the people that rely on that stuff to develop, there's a group here that, Indiana did this, Indiana won this segment, Indiana won that segment. Who you hear talking like that? People who haven't played sports, because the people who have, like all the former players that I talk to, none of them talk like that. They're not talking about statistics, because while that stuff's important in the development, you got that stuff you go back and look at and you use that to move forward. That does not help you right now. You're not going to be able to change right now.
Right.
Well, you guys are averaging 0.688 per minute, so you should start moving at 0. Much faster. It's just not relevant. It's just not relevant. Right. But what is relevant is the Man Matt Taylor zone.
You know it, man.
You need to put up you should put up an avatar. Like a Superman or
my camera.
I can see
Yeah, my
in a
camera, on
Superman
my computer camera's been FUBAR for about 6 months.
Oh,
Anytime-
so it's about you being cheap.
Anytime I have to do a Zoom at work, I just use my phone.
I'm going to
Matt.
send you a camera.
Out of this world, world-class golfing, and a premier resort experience that is waiting for you on your next visit to French Lick, West Baden.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by the great folks at Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer, 0% sales event still going on right there. Now you get out there and get to that. Thankfully, we've got Matt Taylor from the Colts here with us today. Matthew, how are you, sir?
What's going on, guys? I'm well. How are you?
Cannot complain. Dustin Schutte sitting in with me as always as well.
What's going on,
Last
Justin?
time-
How are you, buddy?
I'm good, Matt. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I've just been hanging out, waiting for this weather to break specifically here.
I'm still trying to get Dustin to come out of the closet, as you can see.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Last time you were on, we actually couldn't talk about big news that has happened. Has that become official? I haven't even paid attention.
It has not. We still got a little bit. We still have till March 17th.
Oh my God, that's so funny.
That's the new league year. So we got a little bit of we got a couple weeks here.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. I seriously had not paid attention, but I find, because I deal with that so much, it is actually funny when I have to deal with it. I'm like, oh, you guys are goofy. Come on. I'm talking about the people who don't send out the information. It just gets kind of funny. But they can figure out what we're talking about. Well, what else is going on then? As we move forward, again, draft. Everything is pointing towards the draft and deciding which way to go in that regard for the Colts. Things are looking up. In every regard. I mean, I think the fans are excited. You've got Indiana football excited. So this state in itself is, I'm not saying Indiana is becoming a football state, but there's definitely a ton of football fans. You got the Colts, you've got Notre Dame football. Purdue has not been great of late, but cradle of quarterbacks back in the day. And Indiana, they're legit top 15 program right now. This is a pretty damn good football state for a basketball state.
Yeah, things are really looking good as far as the potential here with just the excitement for football in the state of Indiana right now. I mean, if you look at it from a NFL standpoint, last week was supposed to be the week of the Combine. And with that, we still had some news. We still had Frank Reich addressing the media as he normally would do at the Combine, but instead this year it was a Zoom call, and it was kind of that same thing that we're doing here right now, where we're talking about things but not really talking about things. That's what Frank Reich had to do, and he actually did a masterful job of it, answering questions regarding the Colts' future at quarterback and what they may or may not do, but also answering some big picture things that can be applied to the news that we all know is out there that we can't specifically talk about right now. So it is a silly dance, but I thought, in terms of playing charades, Frank Reich was a master charades player, because he gave some pretty good context clues and actually gave some hints on the thinking of, why they've made some moves that they have reportedly made to this point. So that you got that going on. Plus you've got, later on this month in the NFL calendar, you're going to have NFL owners meetings later in March. And with that, the competition committee will meet, and they'll go over some proposals, some possible rule changes. So that's always interesting. It's always kind of fun to see what the specific clubs come up with in terms of trying to tweak the game to make the game safer or potentially make it more exciting or interesting. I saw where the Philadelphia Eagles proposed a 4th and 15 rule to essentially take the place of an onside kick, kind of like a down where you have to get 15 yards, and then you would, maintain possession of the ball or then turn it over with pretty good field position for your opponent. So that's interesting. They're talking about potentially moving the hiring cycle, the hiring process back a few weeks. Now it's, so many teams that obviously fire their coaches are looking to make a hire as soon as possible, which coincides with the playoffs. And obviously there's a lot of candidates for potential hires that are with playoff teams. And I never really understood why it's such a rush. And I think it's a disservice to, the offensive coordinators or defensive coordinators that are going to interview for potential head coaches positions or whatever the position is. I think it's a disservice for someone that has a job, that's trying to win playoff games and trying to reach that ultimate goal of winning a Super Bowl, to all of a sudden have to, split up their time and concentration on the future. I think it kind of takes away from the accomplishment of making the playoffs and trying to advance in the postseason. So I would be in favor of that because, quite frankly, I've never really understood why that is the case. So, those are just a few things that are keeping us busy. As we know, the NFL news cycle never stops. We're going to have free agency in less than 2 weeks, and then it's going to be the draft, and it just keeps rolling.
Yeah, J.J. Watt made big news. Everyone he has done it so old-fashionedly. That's what's been funny. He's handled everything. He's been his own spokesman. Hey, I'm just going to do this. Hey, I'm doing that. And he ends up signing with the Cardinals, not what you would call a splashy signing, but he just seems like a guy who just wants to play football more than I don't know. He just wants to play football, it seems. Wants to be happy. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, it was interesting to me, too, why he signed with Arizona, because at the beginning of all of this, it was not necessarily about the money at this stage in his career. It was more about going to a place that was a contender, a place that he could win his first Super Bowl. And so you have to wonder, okay, are the Cardinals, are they a legit contender? Because on the outside looking in, it seems like they have a few steps to take in order to kind of get into that category. But the more you kind of think about it, it's a good situation for him. The Cardinals lost 5 of their final 7 games, just missed out on the playoffs in a pretty weak NFC. So they're not terribly far off, but they've gone, from 3 to 5 to 8 wins over the past couple of seasons. They're kind of a coach on the rise with Cliff Kingsbury. They've got the quarterback in place with Kyler Murray, about to enter his 3rd season. So he's starting to kind of get in his prime. He's going to pair up with Chandler Jones. I know those are 2 guys that are kind of getting up there in age, but in terms of a track record, they've obviously, been there and done that. So I see why people kind of scoff at the notion that the Cardinals are being a contender. But, last year with a 9-point win differential and 5 one-score losses, I think they could pretty easily kind of take a leap forward. They've got a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. So they might be one of those teams that you would, put in the category of potentially being able to kind of take that next step and go from good to great, go from 8 wins to 12 wins and be a real contender in the NFC. But we'll see. I mean, even it's coming out today that J.J. Watt's contract is not as lucrative as it once that it was first reported last week. But still, I mean, he is this is not necessarily free agency because he was just flat out released a couple weeks ago by the Texans. But this is the first time for him that he's been able to kind of seek a new opportunity and go to a different landscape. So I think he's a really good player. I don't think he, is what he once was 5-6 years ago, where he was getting, 15 sacks a year and just that total game record that he used to be. But there's no doubt he can still impact the game. And obviously a lot of teams were seeking out his services once he was released by Houston.
Justin?
Yeah. And, the interesting thing to me, Matt, is when you have a guy like J.J. Watt and you say he's trying to get this Super Bowl, it seems logical then that he might go for a team that was, playing for a division or a championship or in the Super Bowl last season. So it's interesting to me that he takes a route like, we've seen this in the NBA where maybe Kevin Durant joins the Golden State Warriors and maybe takes an easier path, but it doesn't seem like, maybe he thinks the Cardinals can be that championship contender, but he's not just jumping to join the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Kansas City Chiefs. And I know that there's some, there's obviously roster management and salary cap issues there. But it's very interesting to me that instead of taking that path, he's been excellent throughout his entire career, that he still wants to kind of do this I don't want to call it the right way, but maybe like the old-fashioned way, where he wants to go help a team develop and right to start him rather than join a team that's already there.
Yeah, this is to your point. This is not Rob Gronkowski just following Tom Brady wherever he goes,
Yeah.
right? This is not that. And another kind of head scratching thing about this move is, if you're going to go to a place that you think can contend, that's fine. And I'm not saying Arizona cannot, but the NFC West is just so loaded. I think that probably outside of the AFC South, and I think it's probably ahead, maybe a notch above the AFC South, because I think Houston next year, if Deshaun Watson does not play, has a chance to be a really bad football team, thus making the AFC South top to bottom not the most competitive division, but 3 out of the 4 teams stand to be pretty competitive next year. But so getting back to what I'm saying, the NFC West is just going to be loaded, and there's no sure thing that the Cardinals are going to, win the division or, at the very least be a wild card team, because that division just top to bottom is so good. I mean, Seattle's not going anywhere. I think San Francisco is going to bounce back. So I think it's going to be a really tall order for them to, win that division, and then, get enough wins to sneak into the playoffs. I know they've got some franchise momentum, as do the Colts. But it's one of those things where I think based on their schedule and who they have to play 6 times a year, it's going to be a tall order to make the playoffs. I don't know if J.J. Watt is a guy that can take them over the top, but they certainly, did a great job in recruiting him. They attacked him from all different angles. He just kind of fell in love with, whatever is going on out there. So we'll see if that is the difference on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, it's always, we never know how it's going to turn out, because you just add the right pieces in the right places. Who thought Tampa Bay was going to the Super Bowl? Even when you knew Tom Brady was going there, who really thought that they had a chance to go win the Super Bowl?
I thought they had a chance. I didn't think they would do it, but there was definitely a chance for them, because as we've talked about on this show, the star power from a conference standpoint is it's in the AFC. So the NFC was an easier path. Let's just put it that way. But when you've got Godwin and Evans and a great offensive line and a great defense, plus a great defensive coordinator in Todd Bowles, and then Gronkowski comes over, then they sign Antonio Brown. I mean, that was a team that had the potential to do it. It had the makings to do it on paper, but we all know what how games play out on paper. It really doesn't matter. But kudos to them, because normally when you kind of I hate to say this, buy a locker room, it typically does not work out. But in this case, you've got the pieces in place to make the acquisitions work, because you've got guys that are so dedicated to their craft in Gronkowski and Tom Brady. So obviously, you're bringing guys in, you're trying to infuse talent on some of the talent that's already there in that locker room. But they've got sort of the intangibles to back it up with their leadership and their track record in terms of their success and what they've been able to accomplish already in their careers.
Absolutely. What's up next for you, brother?
Just grinding, getting ready for, we're talking a lot about just kind of the business of football this time of year, obviously, with free agency and the salary cap. The salary cap is exponentially lower than what it normally is because of the pandemic. So for people to understand that, just in terms of basic terms, the revenue from the league, they obviously did not generate as much this year as they do in normal years. There was a long period of time where the salary cap was going up, 5 to 10% every year. And based off of the 2019 to 2020 projections, the salary cap this upcoming offseason was projected to be around $210 million. Well, because of all of the pandemic related stuff, that has basically bottomed out. And, the league is doing a good job in terms of trying to mitigate that and soften the blow as best they can. They're going to borrow from upcoming salary caps, if you will. So the floor of this year's salary cap is going to be $180 million. So again, you're talking about a $30 million difference per team. So that's going to have a big effect on free agency and what guys can grab on the open market. I think you're going to see a lot of guys, those mid-level free agents, basically be eliminated or have to take significantly less money than they thought they would before the pandemic. So it's going to be really interesting to see how many guys are just flat out cut and released because teams are trying to shed salary cap to make sure they're cap compliant. And we'll see how many teams, go younger and cheaper in the draft and undrafted free agents, trying to fit everything in under a salary cap that is significantly lower than what it used to be.
If I have to remind you, Matt, my availability would really help lower the cap. I could give them a lot of room.
Just get out there, baby. Run the 40, do some push-ups and sit-ups, get on that diet, get a nutritionist. I think you got a shot this year.
Man, I used to be able to run the 40 pretty good, but if I ran it today, you could probably use a dial or just or I could send you a text when I was done.
Let me know.
Like it.
Let me know. I'll get you to the right people.
Yeah, brother, I appreciate you, man. Go out and have a great week. Looking forward to doing this again. And it's almost golf season, so you have to get away and you got to get out, get down to the point soon.
Indeed, baby. Let me know. Good to talk to you guys.
Appreciate you. Have a good one. Right. Matt Taylor from The Coach joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. Hey, we got more coming up. Chris Denari from the Pacers will join us later. Man, they've been having an up and down here of late, but how about TJ McConnell went off last night? I mean, set a record, first of all. 9 steals in the first half. Of course, we're going to talk about this later with Chris, but 9 steals in the first half. You know how many he got in the second half? 1. But he gets a unique triple-double.
And that one steal won him the game. So it came at a crucial moment for them.
Well, the triple-double, listen to this weird one. 16 points, 13 assists, 10 steals. That's crazy. That's his second career triple-double. But, yeah, we'll talk about it. They've been up and down, man. But we got to hit a break, don't we? We'll see. We'll be back in a minute from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Brought to you by Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. We'll be back.
Welcome to your extraordinary destination.
Pacers were down by 19 in the third quarter last night. Back and won.
Man, as soon as the Indiana season's over, I'll be able to focus a little bit more on them, but not that I care. But
man, I have a Roku, and I'm able to use my account on that. So I just turned it on at about 10:30. Fast forward through the commercials.
what are you talking about?
Pacer game. I don't really watch them. Yeah. I watch some of them live, depending.
Man, that feature with the games in 60, or they just cut everything. Oh my gosh,
that's the best thing ever. That's the best
you
thing
can
ever.
get you can get some stuff done.
The only thing that takes me off about it is, and this is very minor, but Big Ten Network doesn't. I wish that they would put the labels on what game is it, or what game it is, so I can know what to record. Because I try to watch every football game twice.
We don't have to talk about it today, but just something in the back of your mind. Bielema, I think he's going to make a difference in Illinois.
Oh, Bielema?
Yeah, Bielema.
Yep, Brett Bielema.
He's going to make a difference there. There's no reason not to.
Oh,
it doesn't matter where you are. It's about freaking culture. Look at Tom Allen. If you can do it in Indiana, by God, you can do it anywhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're going to be. They'll be just fine.
See, Lovie Smith was a bad hire because he's used to having GMs who stock the team for him. He didn't have to go find the talent, no evaluation. Yes.
And I think he thought that his popularity in Illinois with leading the Bears
he was more of a manager.
His recruiting was terrible, especially in state. Oh. Man, especially Bielema in the Big Ten West. I mean,
all right, so we got a segment. We can talk about anything. We can talk about anything we want. What do you got? Anything you want to talk about?
I mean, I don't have anything in particular. We can talk football because spring practice is starting.
Oh, a lot of baseball is coming up.
Honda from Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer, Andy Moore Honda. Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, where more means more. More selection, more savings.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Here on this Thursday, Justin Schutte sitting in with me. Matt Taylor just joined us from the Colts. Chris Denari from the Pacers joins us in a little while. Hoosier fans, if you want a shot to see Indiana play in the Big Ten tournament, you'll get your chance maybe. Limited attendance will be allowed at the Big Ten tournament. We'll get more and more information about that, but they will allow a limited number of fans to attend the 2021 Big Ten men's basketball tournament. Of course, played in Lucas Oil Stadium. The following approval by Marion County's health department will allow a capacity of 8,000.
Wow.
Which is great when you consider if you get everybody out of the games, should be pretty good. Even if you consider family and friends, because you look at IU games, that's 4 times what they're allowing in to the NCAA tournament at Assembly Hall.
Yeah.
Now, unless Assembly Hall changes, unless they change, why I have no idea, other than it being Indiana and doing an Indiana thing, they're allowed to have 25%, and that's 25% of 2,000.
Right.
Not 17,400.
Yeah, and I don't understand either. And I think Purdue is taking that route too. I think they're going half of 20, so I think they're going like 12 or 13% capacity. So I don't know if it's a county thing. I don't know if it's a school thing. I'm not really sure. But you would think that they would take the opportunity to have these fans get a little concession money. I don't know. It didn't make much sense to me for Indiana to stick at 500, but I don't know what their health officials are saying. I don't know what the county's saying.
Let me introduce you to Indiana University.
Yeah.
Apparently, you've not met Indiana University. Anyway, so there's that. So if you want to see Indiana play, go watch them at Lucas Oil. There's your shot. 8,000 people can get in. So I would. Now, here's the thing. In a normal year, those tickets would be gone so fast.
Mm-hmm.
If Indiana fans do not buy those tickets after an entire year of not being able to watch their team play, and now they're playing within their state in the biggest city in the state, one of the biggest cities in the country, if Indiana does not sell out their allotment, that will speak volumes.
Yeah.
The apathy. People have talked the talk on social media. I'm not, by God, until they start winning, I'm not doing this. I'm not giving any more money until they go to the NCAA tournament. They're not getting any more of my $10. Well, let's see if they show up. I'm serious. Let's see if they show up because that's what speaks to people. The people that have to make this that in Indianapolis. You want a test right there. Indianapolis. Not Bloomington, but India. The fact that it's in Indianapolis, man, that's going to be very interesting. That's going to be something wise to keep a look at.
It will be, and I think that I think that you'll still see a strong turnout. I think that there's still that much passion for Indiana, even though
I agree.
Even though they're playing terribly, and even though there's a lot of talk about not wanting to see this team, the combination of not being able to see live basketball all season unless you go watch the Pacers or you go to a different state, and the fact that it's Indiana, it's still Indiana. I think you'll still see a lot of Indiana. I don't know how they're going to distribute tickets. I don't know if each school is getting an allotment or if they're doing just general.
Oh, absolutely.
Seating. But
well, they will have each school will definitely get an allotment. What that allotment is,
that's true.
Not sure. It's probably more. I would. Well, I don't know why I would guess. It's stupid of me to guess because they'll send the information out or we can get it. But the players could get up to 4 tickets in a situation like this where they're allowing that many people because they've been limited to 2 all year long. So they could get up to 4, but maybe not. I don't know. We'll find out. They'll send the information out and we'll get it to you, of course. But there's that. The fact that you can go see basketball, that should be exciting.
I agree.
Because fans, regular fans, should be able to get in. It's not just going to be the parents and the friends and family. So that's cool to see. And I'll tell you, for me, I'm happy that fans are going to get in. It's not fun being in these tombs. So hearing the people, that's going to be for the first time in, I can't tell you, a long time. I'll tell you. Well, I can tell you the last Big Ten tournament when they shut it down after the Nebraska game. So that's going to be fun. I'm excited about that. Fun, yes. Something to be excited.
It's going to be fun, and you're going to notice it exactly, and you're going to notice a difference too. I think even on television broadcasts, and obviously people who have been to these games, they're going to notice it's a great step, and it's going to provide at least a little bit of that March Madness feel. Not the same that we typically get, not the same level of excitement and fan going ballistic and that, but at least it's something. And that's going to be, I would hope that's going to be a nice energy boost for some of these players too. Having to play in front of, whatever it is, 100, 250 people in certain arenas, or, max is 500 or whatever it might be. So for players to have that opportunity to play in front of fans, even though it's a limited amount, I think that amount is going to juice these players up, and it's going to be fun to see the excitement back in these buildings. So I do hope. I know tickets are going to be pricey. I know there's a lot still going on, but hopefully we see a good turnout for the Big Ten tournament because these kids have sacrificed so much. They absolutely deserve to see some fans in the stands in Lucas Oil next week.
Not only that, how will it alter?
Yeah.
Some games. This is not the one where it may alter it because it's a neutral site, but we have it. No team has had really fan support in the Big Ten behind it. In the Southern conferences, we have seen that, but they've not had that. So there's going to be a difference. And again, in another year, maybe Indiana has a gigantic advantage in this. Gigantic. If they were a team that people cared about, man, Indiana fans would be sucking those tickets up so fast it wouldn't be funny. And they would have a decided fan advantage, and it would be fun. It would be a great, fun March event. But guess what? That's not what's going to happen. But I do think fans are going to show up because you're right. They want to get out. The sun's starting to come out. It's getting warmer. The vaccinations are going out. The numbers are crashing. People are getting registered. In Indiana, it dropped from like 60 to 55 to 50 in consecutive days.
Yep.
It was going weeks between. We're talking weeks between changes. And in what has to be one of the bigger age groups, in consecutive days, I was like, whoa, man. That's great news.
Great news.
Seeing people out in restaurants, great news. Sporting events, plenty fun.
There's no better city. I've done the Big Ten tournament, 1.5 times because I was there last year and when it got shut down. But there's really not a lot of cities that compete with Indianapolis in terms of location. Bankers Life Fieldhouse, walking distance to these bars and restaurants, and I know that they're probably not at 100% capacity, but it's a great place to have a sporting event like that and have a huge availability of restaurants and things to do. So Indianapolis is a great city. So hopefully people turn up and turn out, and then they're able to get to enjoy the city, because like you said, when it's nice out in downtown Indianapolis, you're able to walk to all these places. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to take in 4 or 5 days of basketball and then go out and enjoy the sunshine, and then go out and enjoy an adult beverage or a hamburger or whatever, your favorite restaurant. It's just, I can't, done it a couple times, and it's awesome every time. Anytime the Big Ten tournament's in Indianapolis, it's awesome.
Well, that's what the Indianapolis does. They put on big sporting events. That's why the NCAA moved here. That's why it's the sporting event capital of the world. That's why there are so – I'd have to pull up the list of all the different organizations that are here. Indianapolis Motor Speedway and all that goes with that. But there are many other sporting organizations that are here. Lots of people hitting us up on the text line. Feel free to do so. The Andy Moore Honda hotline. You can, and also on the video stream or on the YouTube. If you're not subscribed there, please do so. Go there. You can find it at Indiana Sports Beat Radio. You can the HTTP thing. If you do it that way, it's just is there a name for that? The HTTP thing, the front end of a link.
You would have said, I have no idea.
Will,
It's
do you have
just
something to say?
youtube.com/Indiana Sports Beat
Right.
is the link to the YouTube.
Right, but I was asking if there's just a phrase. But anyway, yeah, youtube.com, and then there's a hyphen with a C, another hyphen, and Indiana Sports Beat Radio. But that's the unique sign for it. Go there, subscribe, because next year all of the post-game shows are going to be there. It's a lot of trouble to get that stuff fed out on Facebook, and you guys are awesome watching it, but most people are watching it on Facebook, and we got to get that over to one spot, and next year that's where we're going to be. But we appreciate everybody following there, and all the comments, and the comments we're going to get to in the overtime period. We've been doing that here of late as well, or if it really, because they're mostly about IU basketball, so it'll be later on as we continue to try to move on. What spring? Something has occurred to me. The Pac-12 did not play football, right, in the fall.
Yeah, they did.
Oh, they did.
They did. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's right. They did. There were so many conferences that didn't. They announced their 2021 schedule yesterday, but it's with 9 conference games. Did they switch to a 9 conference game schedule, or is this just for next year? Are they not doing? I have not researched it. I didn't have time. I didn't really care about the Pac-12 that much, but are they not doing non-con games next year and just doing conference games? Because I saw they have a 9-game conference schedule.
Next season, they're still playing non-conference, because Stanford is actually the only team in the FBS that's playing all 12 Power 5 teams. They have the 9 conference games. They're playing Notre Dame, and then they'll play. I think it's Vanderbilt and I can't remember who the other, Kansas State. So the Pac-12 is bumping up and increasing its trying to improve their resume for the college football playoff, because they have not made it since Washington in 2017. And they've only had 2 appearances in 7 years. So they're trying to buff up their scheduling, because nothing else they've done has worked. So, but yeah, they will play. They just released their conference schedule, but as of right now, anyway, they're going to play a full 12-game schedule. That's at least the plan.
Well, here's the funny thing. The Big Ten is the only one that's had the sacks to go to a 9-game permanent conference schedule, which a lot of people think that hurts them, because these SEC teams, ACC teams, they're only playing 8 games, and they got 4 games in which they beat the crap out of somebody. That's 4 games that you get to kind of rest and get an auto win. Also, one that you're not going to take a loss in, and it's not equal. I'm glad to see the Pac-12 doing that, but is that dangerous for them? Because it's a lot of people think it hurts the Big Ten. So if it hurts the Big Ten, it's damn sure going to hurt the Pac-12.
It hurts the Big Ten in terms of the college football playoff. it has. I shouldn't say it always does because Ohio State's made it the last 2 years. So in the past, it has because Ohio State got left out a few years, and Penn State got left out in 2016. But what I can tell you is it does not hurt the pocketbook because that's part of the reason why they were able to sign such a lucrative deal with Fox is because they added that ninth conference game. And the Big Ten also, they've wavered on this a little bit, but they were one of the first conferences or the only conference to eliminate FCS games. Now, they did eventually say if you're only going to play 4 home conference games, you can't try to get that extra home game by filling in an FCS opponent. But I think that there are somewhere in the ballpark of 12 or 13 total FBS teams that aren't playing an FCS team next year, and 8 of them or 9 of them from the Big Ten. So you're getting quality, even though you're getting 9 conference games, you're still outside of the conference schedule. You're getting quality football. So I don't like 9 games. I wish it was either 8 or 10 to make so every team had the same amount of home and away games. But it does hurt them in the college football playoff picture. But I'd rather see the SEC and the ACC be forced to increase the amount than see the Big Ten decrease because I think it's better football.
Absolutely. Especially when the SEC is the one that continues allowed to crash. I think that's part of the reason. So, yeah, but we got to hit a break. Hey, Chris Denari from the Pacers will join us next. They've been kind of up and down, but they're coming off of a win, so that matters. Up next from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer, 0% sales event going on right now. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. We're back right after this.
Hey, we all want more, and no one gives you more for less than Andy Moore.
Good morning, Chris.
Hey, Dustin, how are you?
Hey, brother, how are you, sir?
Hey, Jim, how are you?
All right, boy, we got the brand battle today. Nike and Adidas going at it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I had lunch with Jay.
NBA is Nike, so I have a lot more Nike.
I have more Nike because TJ Maxx has more Nike. They don't have very much Adidas stuff. I do prefer the Adidas stuff, but and plus I had lunch with JC Halls yesterday, so I felt inspired.
Yeah.
And Jordan was on the show yesterday.
Oh, okay.
And I ran into Jay accidentally at the Crazy Horse last week. 2 degrees of separation with the Halls family.
Where is Jordan right now?
He's still in Germany.
Still in Germany?
He's having the best season of his pro career.
Wow, that's awesome.
They're 18-1. He's never played in the playoffs. I did not realize that.
Wow.
So he's probably only got about 2 more years of doing this.
Yeah.
He's got 3 kids.
Man, it's amazing how they all grow up.
Boy, is it. But as a kid, it would be kind of cool, but they don't really know it. They're where they are. They're not. It's sad that they don't get to experience it really.
Yeah. I see they're letting fans in for a Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, we were just talking about that. I was just talking how it'll be a telltale sign for Indiana. How many Indiana fans snatch, because in a normal year, man, they would be snatching those tickets up left and right, which that still might happen, but man. But it's cool. 8,000, that's a lot. Assembly Hall is allowed 25%, but they're allowing in 500 people, which is 2,000, which is 25% of 2,000.
Right. We had about 3,000 for the Golden State game. I think that's what we I don't know what we have tonight. Tonight's our final home game before All-Star break. I get my first vaccine here in an hour and a half.
Lodging that is out
Dude,
of this
it's funny
world.
you say that.
World-class golfing and a premier resort experience that is waiting for you on your next visit to French Lick
trying to
West
get it in as
Baden.
quickly as I can, and I didn't get it in, I guess.
Today's guest
And
is brought to you by
afterwards,
Reynolds
I
Family
go
Dentistry
back
of
and
Solorsburg. You need
we'll
a $1 million
talk
smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here on this Thursday, brought to you by the great folks at Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. Joined now by our good friend Chris Denari of the Pacers. Chris, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you?
Cannot complain. Dustin Schutte with me as always as well. TJ McConnell, how about that night he had, man? A great triple-double, but a kind of a unique triple-double. But, man, nine first-half steals, an NBA record, of course.
Right.
Was the old one 8, I guess?
Yeah, nine first-half steals. He ended up with 10, which is one shy of the NBA record. Kendall Gill, the former star at Illinois, did it in the NBA, and a guy named Larry Keenan, who played for the San Antonio Spurs. And it was interesting, Jim, because the only steal he had in the second half was probably his most important one. It came late with the Pacers nursing a 2-point lead. They had come back from a 19-point deficit, and he popped a steal free, and Malcolm Brogdon scored and gave the Pacers a little bit of comfort level down the stretch. But if it wasn't for him in the first half, I don't know where the Pacers would have been, because they were down 10. They were down 10 at the half with a guy that had 9 steals, and they forced in the first half 18 turnovers and scored 26 points off those turnovers. But Cleveland had shot 61% when they weren't turning it over, and they had out-rebounded the Pacers 26-6. I mean, there were some numbers last night that you just wouldn't believe. And it got worse in the third quarter, and give the Pacers a lot of credit. They had their backs to the wall. They had lost 4 straight games. Cleveland had won 4 straight games. So, you know, we don't know what this win will mean for the rest of the year, but it was a very important win just because of what you have. We've talked about it the last few weeks about the schedule. You have Denver tonight, a really good team. And then when you come out of the All-Star break, you're loaded with a very tough schedule. So it was important to get a win, and the way they did it, hopefully it gives them some momentum.
And Chris,
Yeah.
I thought that there was some resiliency last night, because in the game against Philadelphia, you got blown out. It looks like you're going to have the same sort of situation in the third quarter of that game last night. And you go back and late in the game, it almost shades of Boston, where the Pacers had their opportunities, and it looked like they might let that slip away. So, you know, again, we've talked about having TJ Warren on the bench, Karis LeVert unavailable. I thought that having guys like TJ McConnell, Edmund Sumner step up off the bench, I thought they showed some resiliency last night, even during this 4-game losing streak, knowing they have to get a win.
Yeah, and you're right, Dustin. And I think the one issue that they've dealt with here far too much in the last 2 weeks is playing from behind. And they now have 3 road wins from playing from behind. They came back to beat Atlanta, came back to beat Minnesota, and then the rally last night. But when you continue to put yourself into those positions, it makes it very difficult. But you're right, you have to give them a lot of credit. And I think Edmund Sumner's done a nice job the last week playing off the bench. Malcolm Brogdon credited Nate Bjorkgren last night. You don't see this in the NBA a lot, but we've seen it quite a bit with the Pacers. They went box and won, and they basically eliminated Colin Sexton from Cleveland's offense, who had been playing very well. He had 32 last night, and as the Pacers made their comeback, they went box and won. And, you know, it may be a gimmicky defense, but it was able to at least change the course of the game and put the Pacers in position to get the win.
Speaking of LeVert, he seems to be on track to get back with the team, but I don't is getting back this year or not. He would make a huge difference, because I've noticed how they've been kind of up and down. They lost those 4 games in a row, then they kind of balanced it, won a couple in a row. Now you've won 1, lost 1. But not having a guy like that is definitely probably one of the things that could really just tip the balance, and because they just seem like they're just teetering on that middle, and they're just kind of going back and forth, and they need that this one extra piece to kind of stay on the right side of the law, so to speak.
Yeah, the one thing they did when they made the trade, trading Victor Oladipo in the 4-team deal that ultimately put him in Houston, is getting a Karis LeVert, who is similar from the standpoint that he likes to create. He's very good with the basketball in his hands. You give him the ball and he can go. Plus, he's a good perimeter shooter. And so when they don't have him, plus they don't have TJ Warren, teams have really focused on the duo of Brogdon and Sabonis. And they've had excellent years. They're both averaging 20 points per game. And two other guys have had good years in Doug McDermott and Justin Holiday. But they would be more comfortable coming off the bench and giving the Pacers a lot more depth. And they're not what you would call shot creators. They are shot makers, but from a perimeter standpoint, though we've seen McDermott do a better job of getting to the rim, they need somebody else to help them create a shot. And so what teams have been doing is they've really been sitting on the two-man game of Brogdon and Sabonis and almost daring other players to beat you. I think when you get Karis LeVert back, and we anticipate that he could be back a week or so after the All-Star break, and TJ Warren is a lot later. I think he is more sometime in April and closer to May, coming in off that foot surgery. But clearly, if they can get somebody like Karis LeVert to give them a legitimate third scoring option in that offense, that will really take a lot of the pressure and the burden off Domantas Sabonis and Malcolm Brogdon.
Chris, we talked about last week how there's kind of a logjam in the East. I mean, a week ago, the Pacers were sitting at number 4 in the East, and I think today they're at number 9 on the outside of the playoff picture right now. But to me, the silver lining has been when you have a Karis LeVert and a TJ Warren on the bench, if you can kind of hover around that 500 mark, when you get at least one of those guys back, I think you have the potential to make a good run heading into the playoffs. I mean, do you think that's a fair assessment? If you can stay around 500 until you get those guys back, you can make your final push towards the end of the season and have some momentum heading into the playoffs?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, you can call it treading water or whatever you're trying to do. And here's the other thing, Dustin, is even though this year the playoffs, remember, are really 10 deep, because the 7 through 10 will be it's an NCAA March Madness single elimination. 7 will play 10, 8 will play 9, and then the winners will play. Wait a minute. 7 will play 8. Whoever wins automatically in the playoffs, the loser gets an opportunity to play the winner of 9 or 10 to get into the playoffs. So what you're trying to do, you'd like to be in the top 6 because you'd like to totally avoid the play-in situation. But if that's not feasible, then, hey, you want to finish in the top 10, then you have to win 2 games to get to the best of 7 first-round series. But I think you're right. I mean, it's beyond treading water. A lot we'll know a lot about this team when they come back through the first 7 games of the restart, because you start out with at Lakers, at Phoenix, at Denver, come home and play Brooklyn at home, go on the road and play Miami in back-to-back games, and then go to Milwaukee. I mean, that is a gauntlet. And the reason all of those games are on the road, as you guys know, is because of March Madness, is because what's happening in Indianapolis. So you're right. If you can stay around that 500 mark, then you come home in late March, April, and May, and you have the majority of your games at home. So that'll be important for this team. And you're right. They're in 9th, but they're only a game and a half out of 4th, but they're only 2 games away from 13th. That's how crammed and congested the Eastern Conference is right now.
Absolutely. And something else, did you get a check? You probably didn't because you're just too busy at this time of year, but on BTN the other night, they had a pretty kind of a unique, whatever you call it, a show, whatever. 85, the big trip for Indiana. Bob Knight took his team to all over international trip, but it was after Quinn, of course, but it was such an incredible thing. But the point here is Sabonis's dad. There was a nice little piece where they talk about him and all just how incredible of a player he was. They're like, that stuck out to him. Like almost every one of the IU players were talking about, this guy was a freak. He was just so good. Because they'd never heard of this guy because he's from some foreign land and they're Indiana basketball players. And this guy was just, and he's just an old man, not an old man, but he was an older guy and it was, but would be killing it in the NBA, which he would, but that was a cool part. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you go watch it.
That'll be cool because, I think at the NBA level, we saw Arvydas Sabonis play pretty well, but he was nowhere near the player he was earlier in his career. Domas, in fact, was born in Portland when his dad was playing for the Trailblazers. That's where Domas grew up. And, Arvydas Sabonis was a part of all those great Soviet teams. And it's interesting because you think about how talented players are in the United States. Look at when the Soviet Union, the USSR broke up, and you have all those great players in Lithuania and all throughout Eastern Europe. Arvydas Sabonis is considered one of the great players internationally of all time.
Yeah, at 7'3", the things he could do, it was like, maybe like Magic Johnson was to the guard position. It was just. It's just weird, but fun. It was just fun, really fun to see that. It was, and then the whole thing. It's great. I would really suggest going back. Ask Quinn if he's seen it yet.
Okay.
It was just a cool deal. But what are you guys coming up next? To know you got to prep for the remaining games here.
Yeah, Denver tonight, and you talk about an unbelievable international player, Nikola Jokic. He's had 50 triple doubles in his career. He and Sabonis are 1-2 as far as double doubles are concerned this year. Gary Harris, and a native out of Michigan State, will be in Bankers Life Fieldhouse tonight. They are 3-0 on their current road trip. They just beat Milwaukee the other night by 31 in Milwaukee. So this is a really, really talented team that the Pacers are going to have to deal with. That's what I always say about the NBA. It's really it's unlike college basketball. It's unlike football. You just don't get very much time to celebrate your big wins. Less than 24 hours after a tremendous come-from-behind win, an epic performance by T.J. McConnell, and what do you get? You get the Denver Nuggets tonight. But it should be a lot of fun. We look forward to having the telecast. It's a 7:30 pregame, 8 o'clock start tonight on Fox Sports Indiana.
Make sure you catch it. And we thank Chris Denari. Cannot thank you enough, brother. Hey, you have a great one, a great broadcast, and look forward to talking to you soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.
There he is, Chris Denari from the Indiana Pacers, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. We got plenty coming up as well. We've got lots of text to get to and plenty to talk about. But yeah, that piece on the big trip. Have you seen that yet?
I have not seen it yet, but it's on my recorded.
Yeah, it was on mine. I had to go out and I was like, oh wow, it was better than it was just really informative. But it also, it brings to mind. I'm going to take a break. We'll talk about it when we come back. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. We're back.
Hey, we all want more. No one gives you more for less than Andy Moore Honda Bloomington.
There was there was no point in starting that thought because that was not going to be a short thought. Was not going to be a short thought. Yeah, I just assumed the Carson Wentz things was official now.
Well, I think Matt said last week. I thought he said we should be able to talk about it next week, and
probably did because they might. I mean, physical. I'm trying to think of.
I don't know.
Contract not completely signed yet.
That might be it. Yeah, I don't know. God, I didn't realize Denver beat Milwaukee by 31. Peter might get their ass kicked tonight.
You know what though? They could lose. I mean, it's those things, when those things happen, it's like, all right, what something triggered something to just go nuts. Like, look at Michigan. Michigan just got beat by 23 points.
Good point.
23 at what? Fucking at home.
With no IO.
Yeah, without their best player. How's that fucking possible?
That's a great point.
If I'd have come to you and said, I'll give you I'll give you whatever. I'll give you Michigan in points.
Yes.
For 1,000-to-1 odds. Without IO. We all would have fucking probably taken that.
Yeah.
If someone gave you Michigan and 10 points at home with no IO at 1,000-to-1 odds, they could have fucking cleaned up.
Oh my God. There wouldn't have been a bet on Illinois.
Nobody would have not made that bet.
Nope.
Nobody would have offered that bet.
I had a guy who works for me, and I said something. I said crazy night of basketball the other day, and he goes, "Yeah, I had money on Illinois, on Michigan, so it wasn't great for him."
You know, I really enjoy betting. I just don't do it. I'm one of those guys that, damn it, I knew that. I should have bet that game. I knew I had that picked. I knew it. I can't stand losing money betting. It drives me insane.
That's where, because
This world,
I know
world-class golfing,
I was
and a
outstanding in
premier
that pick,
resort
but I know the
experience
second I would
that
put
is
money
waiting
on it,
for you on
guess what
your
happened?
next visit to French Lick West Bay.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
I lost the sound there, but I guess we're back here from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios, brought to you, of course, by our good friends at Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. I think it was my earpieces that I've lost, so that's why I can't hear you guys. But welcome back. Last night, some games that took place of relevance. Villanova got a win. Florida State got a win. Let's see. Nothing there. Well, there wasn't a whole lot of anything of consequence, to be honest with you. No, that was the day before that Baylor played. I saw 2 Big Ten games down. They weren't. Minnesota. How about Minnesota? Minnesota just played their way out of the damn Big Ten tournament. I mean, out of the NCAA tournament.
Yep. Did they? I didn't see the score. Did they win last night, or did they lose?
Yeah, I mean, they were, to me, clearly in, but you can't lose to a team that is clearly out. They had the opportunity to get back in through the Big Ten tournament, but that's not a position that you want to be in. Going in, you want to know you're there. So
yeah, they were 13-7. They had just come off a win over Purdue. They were 13-7, and they were basically a lock. I mean, they had been a lock for the NCAA tournament. They had wins over Iowa. They had a win over Michigan. They had a win over a ranked Purdue team at the time. And all of us, I mean, they lost 5 straight, 6 straight now.
And they've not got a single road game. They're out. They could have still, I think they could have overcome not having a road win, which is an ugly, ugly stat. I mean, when I was looking at the Big Ten standings, that damn offer in the road cat, it just jumps out at you from all the things that it really did jump out at me. And they lose badly to a Penn State team, 84-65. Don't deserve to be in the tournament. You're out. Indiana, it's like they don't deserve to be in the tournament. That's why they're out.
That's another coach who's on the hot seat, though. Richard Pitino up in Minnesota.
He's gone.
It was reported that he probably wouldn't return. So unless they win the Big Ten tournament.
You know what? Archie's got some connections there with Tom Ostrom. Tom Ostrom has a lot of Minnesota connections. Be a nice little landing spot, potentially. Just saying. Just throwing it out there. Just, keeping all the options open for everybody.
You don't have to
let's
pay that
see.
buyout probably.
Yeah,
That's a big
UCLA
difference.
loses, man. They lose to the Oregon Ducks, which is not a shameful thing. Oregon is 13-4 in the conference, or actually one better than UCLA now. Wow. Man, my man. Michael Lewis. There's a couple teams that are fighting at the top of the Pac-12, UCLA, Oregon, USC. Maryland. Man, here's another team trying to play their way out of the damn tournament. They're 9-10 in the Big Ten, but they're 15-11 overall. They're fine. They've got a winning record overall. You're close to 500 in the Big Ten. You're fine. They're good to go. They should not have lost that game, but it was at Northwestern. It's not like Northwestern's unbeatable or lose. So, go ahead.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Maryland had a 5-game winning streak. I think it was either 4 or 5 games before last night, and then I don't know. I don't know that they have a notable win. Like, I agree with you from a record standpoint, but I don't know who. Like that during that 4-game winning streak, they beat like Minnesota, they beat Nebraska twice. They didn't have any. Maybe Penn State was in there. They did not have any really marquee wins. I don't think they've beaten anybody of note. I mean, I could be wrong. It's been a long season. Maybe they have.
You certainly could be.
But that
they won. They won at Wisconsin when they were number 6.
Okay.
They won at number 12 Illinois.
Okay, so they do have a few then.
They won. They beat Purdue.
Okay, so they do have a couple.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, there's no. Illinois is a big win.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Illinois is a big win
now. And the Purdue win's good too because they're trending in the right direction too. So that's another. Wisconsin is always, for whatever reason, always in the top 25, even though they haven't played well recently. So I guess you can count that as a pretty good win.
The Big Ten is going to end up getting how many teams is it? Where's my standings?
Probably 8.
1,
At
2,
one time, it
3,
was
4,
11.
5, 6, 7, 8. Michigan State can make it 9.
There you go.
They're the team that they're the only team that can get in that's not in right now. As a matter of fact, I think they're all first 4 out. Or the last anyway, they're right there, but they have 2 games against Michigan coming. That's a tough road to hoe, my friend.
That is. But
Now, I don't know how bad. If you get 1 win, you're in. That's solid. That's done. It doesn't even matter what happens in the other game. Right. But you also have the Big Ten tournament where you can pick up some slag. I mean, they're going to be close. It's going to be very tight for Michigan State.
The other team to me is Rutgers. They have to. I mean, right now I think they're still in, but
they're 13-10. They're 9-10. So if you're that close to the Big 500 in the Big Ten, you're in. The Big Ten is too damn tough.
But I'm saying if they lose out, I think they still play. If they were to lose to Minnesota and lose the first game of the Big Ten tournament, then we're talking a different conversation. Right now, I think they're in. But if they lose their,
we gotta wrap it up for your radio folks here.
Yeah, we got 3 more minutes, all right. Yeah. Rutgers is in. They can't. They're fine. Even if they lost those 2 games, it would still not put them under 500. They play in the Big Ten, so let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 for sure, which is down from what we thought.
Yeah,
I don't know that Michigan State can get in there, so I'm going to go with 8 for certain. Now let's look over to the Big 12 because they're getting close to that in getting teams in. And they got several good teams. And I mean, they go about 6 deep when you're talking about good. So men's basketball, boom, boom. Give me some standings. Where are you guys? Oh, this is stupid. They have a stupid website. Well, it's ignorant. There should be a standings right at the top, and it's not, of course. It's stupid Big 12. So I'll have to pull that up in a minute. Why I went to this stupid site, I have no idea. So, because actually I could use the one for the other one, but it'll be interesting to see the Big 12, and not just Baylor, but they're going to make some noise. Hey, we got to get ready to crash out for the radio side here, but we'll have overtime. Got a lot of messages to hit on. Appreciate everybody today joining us. I hope you go out and have yourselves a great day. The sun's out, looking good. The numbers are going down because you guys listen. You continue to wear your masks. You're doing things nice for people. You're washing your hands. The numbers are going down. It works. And for people that say that wearing a mask doesn't work, dude, come on. Why do you think there's no flu? No flu this year because we're wearing masks and washing our hands and whatnot. But it's working, guys. Keep doing it. Let's get rid of this stuff. Let's get back to sports. We're going to have fans, more fans at the Big Ten tournament. So we got a lot of stuff going on, Dustin. It's getting better, man. It's getting better every day.
It's trending in a positive direction, and that's good because a year ago we were trending in the downward spiral. So hopefully we're starting to come out of this thing.
Yeah, we didn't talk about IU basketball much, so that's what helped to trend upward. But we will probably do that in the overtime period, so you can join us there. Hey, for Dustin Schutte, thanks again to Matt Taylor, Chris Denari. I'm Jim Coyle. Make sure you go out and do something nice for somebody. Keep wearing those masks. And until tomorrow, I'm see you on the radio. All right, welcome back, guys.
You go for overtime.
Thank you, sir. Let's see. I'm not going to read them all. I'm not going to have a pound session because everyone knows what we know. Viper, you're from, let's see, I don't know if he's still with us, from Olytic. I think that's where I saw. Yeah, just south of here. Make sure you guys follow me on Twitter so I can keep up with you guys and vice versa. But, people that live in the Bedford area, if you live down there, there's a station, WBIW, man, we would be perfect on. And it's heard in Bloomington. That would be great.
I got something to talk about if you guys want to.
Go right ahead. The man with no
sectionals
face.
For I don't have a webcam set up here, but sectionals for high school, they are for the school that I cover, they are at Paoli this year, and there is full attendance. They're allowing everyone to come. There is no restricted attendance whatsoever.
Wow.
Because Paoli is in a county, they're a blue county, so they have everyone is allowed to come.
No, you're wrong. It is not a blue county. It's an orange county.
Well, that's what the school has said, and the school has made a statement. They had the first sectional game on Tuesday.
Young man, go do some research and see what county Paoli is in. It's a joke. It's in Orange County, my friend.
Orange County. I got you.
The youth that doesn't have the state memorized yet. But yeah, that is amazing to me. Wow, I guess it's a great thing, but I think that's a little overboard.
Yeah.
Masks are mandatory, and social distancing is encouraged. But the student sections were full on Tuesday night.
How do you social distance if you have max capacity?
It's not required. It's encouraged. That's what it is.
All right, thank you, sir. That's you know what, I'm writing that down to talk about tomorrow. Is that everywhere, or is that state by or county by county?
It's county by county, and if you are in that area and want to catch the game, WBRO is broadcasting it on the IHSA network. So if you have a team that is in that sectional tournament, you can come catch that on the IHSA network. Just search WBRO or Crawford County, and you'll find our broadcast.
Well, you need to send that information to Alec, and they'll put it up on the Hoosier.com as well. So thank you. But yeah, that's That's something I'm going to talk about tomorrow, man. That's almost nuts. And I've been watching. I've seen Bedford has had a lot of games, and I'm close to Bedford, and some of their games have been on. I'm like, wow, they got a lot of people in there. And this was before this, so people are anxious for it, but I think we're to that point. I mean, the numbers are just very, very low. So let's move on with it. But we'll definitely talk about that tomorrow. All right, getting over to any comments that are worth getting to. Yeah, Archie's still the coach. I don't feel bad about Archie either, talking about him, and
no,
at all, and because he makes $3.4 million a year. He's a young man.
Mm-hmm.
His life is made. He has to do nothing from now on. He could literally walk into Scott Dolson's office and say, I'll tell you what, pay me the buyout over 5 years. I don't care. Pay it over 10 years. I don't care. I'll walk away for you guys. And he could do so already having almost up to $20 million in the bank. I'm pretty certain I could live pretty highly for a long time on $20 million.
I can promise you I could.
So it's I get so sick and tired of talking about this subject now. I really do, because it's beating the head against the wall. Until something looks like it's actually going to happen, or is it going to happen, it's pointless. And I know that he should be fired because he's horrific. He is just that bad. And there's so many ways. Anybody that, and I would love if you guys find somebody that's defending him, because I know there's some Facebook clowns out there, like these Facebook fanboys, and they have their own little IU fan thing sites and whatnot. Tell me who's defending him. I know of one. I don't go on those sites because it drives me nuts. So these people are there's so much idiocy and sometimes at what things are said. But there is one site where one of the admins of that, I think that's just his little pulpit where he likes to try to be a whatever. But it was just defending. I'm like, what is freaking? That tells me right there, you've either never played a sport. We talked about this before. Don't know anything about sports, or one of those people that are a fan that is so jaded with those that you don't have a clear grasp of reality. And that's truly what it is with fans. They don't have a clear grasp of reality with their own wants, and they don't realize that.
Well, I was going to say, we talked about this, and we're to the point where, we're at the point where apathy has set in a little bit, because you've gotten to a point where we're not having this conversation. Should he stay or should he go? It's a matter of when is he going to finally go? So you've got people just don't. We went a whole segment in March.
Bing. So I wish I had a bell to ring.
We're talking about we just conducted an entire hour and a half show, and in March, and we talked for 5 minutes about Indiana basketball.
Yes, you know why, and you know why.
Indiana Hoosiers.
And you know why? It is, and do you know why? Because if we had, there is zero positive to talk about. I mean zero, and you just nailed it. You just nailed it. We're not talking about if he's leaving. It's freaking when he's leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the truth. And that is the saddest thing. You're right. That is the surest sign of apathy. But the worst case is, I'm afraid that that's going to come after one more season. What in the hell? Oh my God. That's you talk about. That's like getting a root canal, planning on getting a root canal every 2 weeks for the next year.
Well, and I think the biggest problem is, another reason we didn't talk about Indiana again is because what can you say about the Michigan State game that you hadn't said about every other game you've watched this season?
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you. I do have something to say about that one game.
Go ahead.
But it's not. It may not really fit into what, because I get your point, and it is the same. But the one thing from that game that stands out to me, I think I mentioned it yesterday. Those were two teams that were both at the same place, trying to get to the same place. They're like two tectonic plates. Mm-hmm. One's going to go up and become a mountain and a volcano, and one's going to get pushed down and get under the foot of the other one. And Indiana was put underfoot. Michigan State needed that game to try to stay in the NCAA tournament. So did Indiana. That was one of the ugliest games. It was a game of full Archie on display to me. And there was no doubt that who was going to find a way to win, because, one team is coached better. I haven't really seen, it's not like they're not trying, but there's a difference between trying and fighting. And I'm not talking about fist fighting. Indiana doesn't fight. They try, but they don't fight because they don't know what it means to fight. They don't have fighters on their team. They don't have older guys that are fighters that are showing them what it means and how to fight. And when I say fight, I mean scrap and claw for 2 hours. I mean, Race Thompson's one of the guys, as speaking of scratch and claws, he is, I called him a dog. He's the only dog on that team. I think he is the only guy that does that. When he's on the floor, that's why he's got scratches. He's got a busted nose. That's why he's the guy. If you had other guys like him and a coach, you could be winning a whole bunch of games. And Race Thompson is an above average player who just works his ass off. But if you had a coach, they would be doing fine.
Well, and this is where what would benefit Indiana is if you had an experience. I look at a guy like Mike Smith, who transferred to Michigan, who came out of the Ivy League. I think he was at Dartmouth or one of those schools up there, Columbia maybe. But anyway, beside the point is you need somebody to come in with experience, somebody who's played in the NCAA tournament to come into this team. The problem is, who is going to look at what Indiana has done the last 4 years and say, that's a school I want to go play for. That's a school that I know I can get to the NCAA tournament in. They need some sort of, because they don't have the leadership. It's a matter of whether Trace Jackson Davis is pissed off or he's not pissed off. And that's not necessarily leadership. That's playing with fire. And from what I've seen, that doesn't translate. That's where I get the concern about the chemistry, because usually guys can feed off other guys. I really don't see that with Indiana. I don't see Trace Jackson Davis getting upset and it translating to Rob Finney or Jerome Hunter or some of these other guys. So you need somebody to come in and be like, this is how we're going to do things. I'm going to get you to the NCAA tournament. But again, when you look at the development, when you look at the results, I just don't know who you're going to get who would come to Indiana and say, I'm going to be that guy for this program.
Well, that's the thing that people have to consider. You can't do anything unless you have the guy. You have to have the guy or know that you can get the guy. If you don't have the guy or know that you can get the guy, you can't do anything. You can't make a move, or you're back to square one. Indiana did not get the guy. Fred Glass got his guy last time, but he didn't get the guy, and he didn't even consider the guy, which is a shame.
Right. Yeah,
I don't know why such unilateral authority was allowed. The contract writing is just befuddling to me because he's an attorney. He's a freaking attorney. I'd sure like to have him writing contracts for my benefit. I can tell you that, because you're going to get it's definitely in your benefit. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, let me throw out a conspiracy theory here, because I don't know what Tom Crean's popularity is in the coaching circuit. And I don't know if he's well liked. I don't know anything about his personal life, but Let me tell you
talking about
Tom Crean. Now, but here I have a point with this. I'm going to tell you, if I was going to be a head coach, from what Tom Crean said, and this was after he got fired, Fred Glass didn't meet with him face to face. I think it was a text message or a phone call. They never had a personal meeting to discuss this. And that might not have been attractive to some of these other head coaches who have a strong relationship with their athletic directors, or say, you know what, I don't want to have to deal with this guy. I'm not saying that's why you couldn't get a guy, but why else? I mean, I don't remember there being a big list of candidates. Maybe he was just stubborn enough to have his sights set on one guy, but there could have also been conversations about how that whole situation was handled. And there could have been a lot of high profile guys that are like, you know what? I like who I'm playing. I like who I'm working for now. I like my idea. I like my president. And for that whole situation to go down the way it did, that can be unappealing to some of these other coaches who are in good situations. I don't know that that's the case. I'm just throwing out another thought here because I really don't remember another name being in that bucket. And maybe somebody can correct me with other candidates, but that's how I remember it being Archie Miller. Like, I don't remember anybody else. Was there another candidate?
No. Fred Glass was able to apparently unilaterally just. I get sick when I talk about it. I really do, because first of all, and I've said this before, but I cannot get my hands around this. You've got two schools right here in our proximity. One right here in the state, Butler. The other is Xavier. About 5 times they have had to replace their coach. And about 5 out of 5 times, they hit a freaking home run. Butler was doing well under Chris Holtmann, apparently. How in the freaking world do you not look at the coach at the school that has gone to more national Final Fours or title games you have in the last 10 years? How do you not look at the school that is a damn hour and a half up the road? How do you not look at the school that has produced replaced their coach successfully multiple times? How do you not look at that? How? I don't get it. It makes zero sense to me. And that is the arrogance of this whole thing. The arrogance of Fred Glass, the arrogance of Archie Miller. They're 2 peas in a pod. Archie Miller won't change a damn thing because what he's doing is the thing, I guess. Doesn't matter that it doesn't flipping work and that it's going into the damn tank. I mean, that's, again, if it was this, if it was up and down, you would be unhappy, but you could not say, well, definitively it's not going to work, because you're like, oh, maybe sometimes that happens to bust out. There is no that. You know, Tom Crean won 1 Big Ten game his first year. He won 3 his second year, or 4 his second year. Back to 3 the third year. You're like, oh, a little concerning, but the next year was 11. We talked about you. Boom, there it is. Yeah, bam. We're not getting that. This is a direct line that is going down. There is no up and down. It is straight down. It's right. Definitive. To your point, it's not if, it's when. How long people are going to have to suffer through for whatever reasons. It's not even worth talking about. We were talking about the Big 12 a second ago. Baylor, of course, at the top. How about that win they got at West Virginia? That's a big baller win. I'm telling you, West Virginia is one of them tough teams. Huggy Bears got them playing tough. It was overtime, another fist fight. Kansas, they have climbed up to second place. Man, they were like 6th for most of the year. Yep. They have been winning. They are 12-1 at home. Baylor, of course, undefeated at home. But overall, Kansas is 18-8. Coming on. Baylor will be a number 1 seed. Number 1. I love Baylor. Man.
You love them even more now that they got 1 loss, don't you?
Yes. Now someone has got to be. Now we have to hope. Someone has to. Baylor can win a national championship now, and I'll be fine with that. Someone's got to beat Gonzaga. That would just really, I'm sorry. It would just, as a sportsman, it would aggravate the crap out of me if they were able to get through that. But Baylor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7. Yeah, they're going 7 deep. That's it. But they only have 10 teams in their conference. So 70% of their teams, the Big 12 is going to send 70% of their teams to the NCAA tournament. Their 7th place team, or their Texas Tech, is 16-8 overall.
Whew.
I mean, that's
pretty good.
I'm telling you, I've been watching the Big 12 all year, and they've been playing these fist fight games, and it's I think it's going to help them. The Big 12 on the other side, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is Maryland. Maryland is 15-11 overall.
Yeah, there was a time when the Big Ten was going to have 11 teams.
Maryland is the 7th place team in the Big Ten, so that tells you Maryland and Texas Tech. Those are the Big 10 and Big 12 comparatives. But then, or maybe Rutgers. I don't know. Either one of them not doing too good, but too well.
Right.
But, all right. So, any comments that we need to get to over here? This is where having Joy Burke hurts his team. I don't know that Joy Burke brings a lot other than a body. Like I said, they're not. They don't have. There's not a ton of talent on this team, but if they had coaching, I think that they would be fine. Let's see. The least fighter in that game, I guess, the last game was TJD. He's not always there, man. It's got to be disappointing to a lot of people. Let's see. Everyone is calling for Scott Drew to go IDU. That's funny. Here's what I think on that deal, Dustin. There's no way that Baylor is not working on an extension right now. I think he only makes like $2.7 million. Yeah. As soon as I saw that article by Pat Forty, I'm like, yep, they're in there working on it right now. That's what Alabama did. They locked up Nate Oates.
Yep. Right. And look,
what do you got coming up? Go ahead.
And well, I was just going to say that, you know, with the Scott Drew thing is, you know, I think basketball is a little bit more interesting than football because you can win a national championship just about anywhere when it comes to college basketball. So if he's got his culture, if he knows how to recruit, which he clearly does, he's implemented his style down at Baylor. They've been winning. I don't know why you would leave. I mean, because the expectations there are not nearly as high. I mean, they're going to get higher because he's been so successful, but the expectations in Indiana are sky high. So I don't know why you would leave and basically start from scratch. That's what he's going to have to do. I mean, not entirely. There's some talent on this roster, but I'm not getting paid. I don't know his mindset, but I would not be leaving Baylor unless the contract was an insult. And I'm guessing they're going to pay him quite a bit to stay there.
Oh, he would leave for the right place. I mean, but we'll see. Again, doesn't matter. That stuff those conversations are pointless and irrelevant. Hey, what is not irrelevant is you guys. You are the most important thing that we have, and I cannot tell you every day how much I sincerely appreciate each and every one of you guys. I do. Every time running into somebody or whatever, hey, man, listen, I love the show, listen to it. I'm like, it shocks me every time. I'm like, well, I appreciate you, man, so much, and I'm sincere about that. And I appreciate Dustin, absolutely one of my favorite. If I had one co-host, it would probably be you because we just seem to be able to talk about whatever it is. But I'd make you move out. I'd make you come out of the closet if you were every day. But man, thank you so much. I appreciate you. What you got coming up that people need to know about? Anything?
Oh man, we're going to dive into March Madness and Big Ten tournament coverage, and we got Big Ten spring football. The transfer portal's heating up, and spring football is going to be here. I mean, some teams have already started, so spring football is going to be at full steam ahead here in a couple of weeks. So if you love Big Ten sports, we're going to have plenty of it. We're going to have plenty.
Tomorrow, Burdell Jones, of course, Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. I don't know if AJ will be with us or not. I never know until that day. But how about this? Nick Elam from the Elam ending. You know, the Elam ending in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
They used it in the All-Star game last year, NBA All-Star game last year, using it again in the NBA All-Star game this year. They use it in the TBT tournament. He's going to be with us tomorrow
Nice.
And we he may be joining us on a weekly basis permanently going on for that. So we'll see about that. But pretty cool. We'll have him on. So plenty to talk about there. We'll preview Indiana and Purdue as well, and whatever else we can get into. I hope you guys go out and have yourselves an absolutely incredible day. Please continue to wear your mask. Do something nice for somebody. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.